Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Sid Partout. Joining me today is...
I'm that mad kid.
Yeah, exactly. Matt's filling in for Rasco yet again because, well, frankly, we just don't like Rasco that much anymore, and Matt's replacing him.
It's an honor, and I was a little nervous at first, but after the announcement via Twitter that these are just going to be readings of my erotic Sonic fan fictions, I think I'm pretty happy to be on here.
Yeah. So what erotic fan fiction are you treating us with today?
It's called the Old Republic Rescue Mission. I know it's a little strange for an erotic name, but you gotta give it some time. It's a slow burn.
This isn't your read real quick and pump one out kind of erotic fan fiction. This is a commitment.
Yeah, this is a several book long series.
No, we are not, in fact, turning this into Matt's erotic Sonic fan fictions. We're continuing fan film reviews. But we are reviewing The Old Republic Rescue Mission, a Star Wars fan film. And if the makers of that fan film are listening past this point, I'm really impressed they stuck around. Anyway, so Matt, what made you want to pick this?
Well, one of my big loves, besides Sonic, obviously, is Star Wars. I've always been a huge fan of Star Wars, and Star Wars is kind of funny to me. I've had this conversation with Rasco before, where he talks about how, like, kind of to him, Star Wars is the stuff that's in the movies, on the screen, that kind of encapsulates what Star Wars is to him. And I have such a thing where I was introduced to Star Wars, I was introduced to the movies. The Star Wars novels were some of the first novels I read for fun as a kid. And I was introduced to KOTOR 1 and 2 very early as a kid. I would say those are two of the first RPGs I ever played, and they're also two of my favorite video games of all time. So the KOTOR games are almost as much to do with the reason that I love Star Wars as the movies themselves. And so anytime someone does something kind of in that KOTOR universe or with those characters, with Revan, stuff like that, I'm automatically going to be a little interested to check it out and see what it's all about.
See, and that's interesting because I tried a while back to watch through a gameplay without commentary on Knights of the Old Republic, and I made it about half an hour before I was like, what the fuck am I watching? This is boring.
I'll go on record as saying I think KOTOR 2 has the far better story if you were just going to sit down and watch one.
Yeah, I don't know. They're probably just meant to be played, not really watched.
Yeah.
So, I know jack shit about KOTOR.
Cool.
I know that Revan exists. That's about it.
Gotcha.
I know that he exists, and from this, that he uses both the light side and the dark side.
Yeah, more or less, he was a Jedi who defied the wishes of the Jedi Council and went to help the Republic fight the Mandalorians. And after he did that, he then kind of disappeared into unknown space and came back as a Sith Lord with a whole army of Sith with him. And then he got captured, and the Jedi erased his mind and gave him amnesia, and that's when you start KOTOR. You're Revan, but you have... spoiler alert, you're Revan in KOTOR 1. And you find out throughout the game that the Jedi captured you and brainwashed you in hopes of you slowly turning back to the light side because you didn't remember your time being a Sith Lord.
Wow, that is an interesting backstory.
Yeah, he's got a crazy backstory, and I think that's why people like him so much, because he's got like a ridiculous, crazy, dramatic backstory, and the reveal that you've been playing Revan this whole time, this character who you've heard other characters talk about. You get to a point in KOTOR and they reveal, oh, by the way, you're him. Like, it's like a huge thing. So I think that stuck with people, and I think that's why there's so much love for this character and this era of Star Wars.
Okay, so let me ask you this then.
Yeah.
Based on your appreciation for the character and the games, how do you feel this did in capturing that?
I actually, watching this, I was pretty impressed by, naturally, the production values. So I thought the production values were solid, and it was really cool to see an older Mission Veo, because Mission is one of your companions in KOTOR 1. And so it was cool to kind of see her, because she's the Twi'lek, and so it was cool to see her being snarky and annoying, and which she always has been, because she's like 14 when she's your companion in KOTOR, so she's a little bit older now, but she's still kind of a smartass. And then when Revan shows up, I don't totally love his dialogue in this, but I think it does capture his sort of the philosophy that Revan's had before, this philosophy of, the light and the dark and the Jedi versus the Sith. He gets to a point in his life where he just kind of transcends it. He's just like, no, it's all kind of bullshit, and the Force is a lot more than that. So they do capture that, but I do have a lot of questions just with how this relates to other stories in this, because they give a time. They say that this takes place between KOTOR 1 and the Revan novel, and that doesn't totally make sense for reasons that I'm sure I will talk about later. But overall, I thought it did a good job of capturing Revan's sort of presence. I like the voice actor who did the voice for Revan. I don't know if it was the guy in the suit, but I liked him the most probably out of all the actors in this.
Yeah, see, it's interesting you say you don't like the dialogue, because I thought Revan's dialogue was by far the best part of this. I don't know, I really like the kind of maniacal choice that he puts the Jedi into, where it's like, okay, either use the dark side or I'm going to kill your friend, or what you consider to be the dark side. I don't know, I thought that was really cool. I love the line where she says, the Jedi stand for good, and he goes, define good.
Yeah, that's a great line, and that's a great Revan line, because when you get to KOTOR and it's revealed that that you've been playing Revan this whole time, there's kind of this shock that never goes away, where all the companions are like, wow, how fucked up are the Jedi that they would, like, instead of just killing somebody, instead of just executing them, they're going to completely reprogram their identity. Like, that is so fucked up that they would do that. And, like, there's a lot of discussion about that in that game. And so it kind of leads to a Revan who's very, like, good is subjective and good is a point of view. And so they did capture that. Yeah, you're right. I do like the sadistic choice. I think I just thought some of the lines were just a little, like, maybe not the best ever. I'm trying to think of, like, specific instances where I just thought the lines didn't really, I'm trying to think of the word, they didn't really flow with each other terribly well. But overall, I liked it. I thought his performance was good.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I didn't realize that the Twi'lek girl's name was Mission, so this immediately gains a point for me just because I like puns.
Yeah.
Just in general, I'm in love with puns, so the fact that Rescue Mission is a pun, I really like.
Yeah, that's great.
Let's see, what else? You said you really like the production values, and I find the production values here to be kind of countering each other at times. Like, there are some times where the production's really good in an area, and you can tell that cost them in another spot. Like,
yeah, I agree with that, because I think some of the Mandalorian armor looks good, but then I think some of the Republic armor looks really bizarre, and it just looks like he's wearing like paintball armor and stuff like that. Like there is a little bit of a
Like Revan's costume looks great, and then the Guardian's costume is seriously like motorcycle gear.
Yeah, it's just like paintball armor, motorcycle gear with like a pretty decent helmet.
Yeah, and then there's like one of the Mandalorians, the one that's got the blue stuff, his armor's just too flat. It looks like cardboard. There were just like a couple other production things. I'm like, then you should have really killed those characters off early on. If all they do is die by the end of it, you probably could have just killed them off really early on and then gotten like one good Mandalorian armor, you know?
Yeah, and I think you have a bit of a different perspective on this. I don't generally watch many fan films, so I'm not sure what the production value standard is for fan films. So for me, having not watched many, I thought the production values were pretty solid. But yeah, there are definitely some armor that looks a little like not actual armor, or just looks like paintball gear / motorcycle armor. I definitely agree with you.
Well, see, I'm usually not too hard on, all things considered, but this one specifically I have more questions about, because I know they fundraised for it. I saw the link for an Indiegogo campaign somewhere in the video description, and I'm curious to like find out how much they raised in total, but point being, the fact that they fundraised, I always get a little bit harder on production values if you fundraise.
Sure.
Just because naturally you have more money to spend. Now, finding that Indiegogo link again, of course, during the episode is not going to be possible. Why would it be? That would be convenient. There we go. Fundraising campaign announcement. Here's the Indiegogo page. Okay, how much did they raise for this? They wanted 10 grand and they got 33. Okay, that's pretty good then.
Wow.
Or not 33 grand, they got 3,300, sorry.
Gotcha.
They wanted 10 grand, but they got 3,300. That's pretty decent.
For a second, I was like, wait, what? They got 33 grand?
I mean, it's happened.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, they got $3,300. They used that money pretty well then, all things considered. They ended up using that, spreading that around pretty well. Though I'm not sure, because it looks like they already had the Twi'lek costume down. Honestly, their Twi'lek costume in the promotional images looks better than the one in the costume in the film.
Yeah, I think. I would have to look at the promotional, because I do think that their Twi'lek does look pretty solid. Like, I think Mission looks good. And yeah, I would definitely say Revan's costume looks pretty much straight off the page when we've done Revan in comics, and it looks straight off the, when we do Revan in like cutscenes and stuff. And I think the Jedi Sentinel's costume looks all right. The fabric looks maybe a bit cheap, but overall I think the Jedi costume looks fine. But I would say the Blue Mandalorians, and I think some of the Republic troopers or whatever they are, their armor looks a little bit like just kind of like black paintball armor almost.
I mean, seriously, it's tactical gear is what they're wearing, and that's like, I get a little harder on that, but they only got like roughly a third of what they wanted.
Yeah.
They did a pretty good job budgeting that out then, especially since they got a original studio recording for the soundtrack, which damn good ass soundtrack.
It sounds really good.
Yeah. I don't know, it's just weird that the costume design is not up to par with the production value otherwise, because this is shot incredibly well. The effects look really, really solid. And it's not the best written thing in the world, but it's still a pretty well written fan film, all things considered. So the production standpoint for the costume design is the only thing missing. And honestly, with things like Rebels and other Clone Wars stuff, when we've seen Mandalorians, we have seen them in not too, bulky armor. There have been, the summer Mandalorian, as I like to call it, where it's like just a tank top or whatever, of like tank top armor or whatever. You could have gotten away with something like that, with something a little more. They're not wearing heavy armor.
Yeah, because they definitely the thing about the KOTOR universe is that Mandalorian armor in the KOTOR universe looks very different than the kind of Mandalorian armor that they went with, which is a little bit more reminiscent of like Boba Fett or Jango Fett. Because pretty much any time you fight a Mandalorian in the KOTOR games, they're wearing like huge heavy armor. But I think I think they made a smart choice doing what they did, because I think if you like Google KOTOR Mandalorian armor, I feel like on their budget it would have been really difficult to do that style of armor. So I think it looks good for. I think they made the right move there, rather than attempt to go full blown, huge, thick, heavy armor.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking Sabine from Rebels. She pretty much only has the helmet, and I will say the helmets look fantastic.
Yeah, the helmets look great.
I love that shot where it's in like slow motion and you just see the dude sitting behind the log as the lasers blast at him. That was really cool. That's a great shot. There's a great shot of the sniper chick doing it. She's got her barrel like pointed towards the camera. Does this like super quick rack focus as she fires off a blast. It just looks really good. There's a lot of really cool shots in this that I just thought were really solid. And that's what I was thinking throughout. I just thought, this looks, from a photography standpoint, this looks just really solid. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I think it has a nice, clean look. I mean, it's one of those things. It's a fan film shot in a forest, which, if I had a nickel,
yeah, every Star Wars fan film. Which, fair enough, because I mean, a forest is an easy thing to say it's an alien planet without having to have like a crazy budget to do like crazy sets and green screen. So I mean, I get it.
Definitely. It's always funny that's like the go-to, but it works. Maybe this was just a throwaway line, but I was just curious if it had any relation to KOTOR. Any significance to the fact that they're on Alderaan?
No, not that I can think of.
Okay, just curious.
I was thinking about that too, because I was just like, why are they on Alderaan? And I can't think of anything. I don't think Mission ever mentions going to Alderaan. It's been a while since I've read the Revan book, but I don't think it mentions Alderaan specifically. So, no, not that I could think of.
Gotcha. I don't know. I thought it was just probably a throwaway thing, but I was just curious. I would like to see a fan film set on Alderaan that's like in the new canon, because apparently Alderaan was like the cultural center of the galaxy and had a bunch of like weird ass alien art and shit, and I would just really enjoy seeing that.
Yeah, me too.
Someone try to achieve that. Don't know if that'd be the best thing ever for a fan film, but I'd enjoy it. Regardless of that, though. So no, I thought that overall this hit really well on a lot of cylinders for me. Again, my biggest complaint is the costuming. As far as the story goes, I mean, like, it's a good story, but it's... What was it Rasco said during our last Star Wars fan film review? Every Star Wars fan film seems like pretty much an excuse to do a fight scene.
Yeah, and I would go on record and say that I think this fight is good, but it's definitely not the best fight. Like, it's definitely not the best saber fight I've ever seen in a Star Wars fan film. However, I think the blaster fight is really good.
Yeah, my biggest problem with the fight choreography is the Guardian character, especially during like that section where the Jedi takes on the Mandalorian.
Oh, because he does nothing?
Well, it's not just that he does nothing, it's that he's like awkwardly, hovering around her. And like it almost looks like a video game AI.
Yeah.
You know, when they like standing
I'm
there,
ready to step in.
Yeah, they don't quite know what to do.
Yeah.
I don't know, that looked really awkward. And, I have the feeling that they're probably the fight choreographer under the costume or something.
Yeah.
That's usually what that role ends up doing, is like it's just the person that doesn't have any lines but does know how to fight. is in a fight. And like when he does stuff, it looks cool, but unfortunately, he doesn't do a lot of stuff. What did you think of the actress that played the Jedi? I already forget her name, unfortunately.
I thought she was solid. Again, for my money, I would say the two best were probably Revan, and I don't know, maybe Mission or one of the Mandalorians. I thought she was fine. I just kind of questioned her because she looks like Bastila. She's dressed like Bastila. She has a double-bladed orange lightsaber like Bastila. She's conflicted about her feelings on the light side and the dark side by the end of it like Bastila, but she's not Bastila. So I just thought that was kind of a weird choice to do this character that's very visually and like character dynamic-wise very similar to a character who's very associated with Revan from the game, but we just kind of called her something else. But, I mean, I thought she was fine for what she did.
Okay, so you're certain that it's not supposed to be her?
Oh, it's not Bastila, no.
Okay, that is a weird choice then.
Yeah, and that's weird to me, because they've gone out on record and said this takes place after the game, before the novel, and they give her a name. Her name is, hang on, I have it pulled up here. Her name is Varian Core. And so I just thought it was weird. So I'm like, at first I thought it was Bastila. I was like, oh, cool, this is Bastila. And then it wasn't Bastila, even though she acts, looks, and fights just like Bastila. So I just thought that was...
looks like a duck, acts like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a cow.
Yeah, exactly. So I just thought that was a weird choice. Not necessarily that she was bad, because I thought she was serviceable, but I just didn't understand why we took that character that direction, like visually, and it just felt weird.
Yeah, I gotcha. I didn't pick up on that because again, I haven't played the game. So,
yeah.
You know, the thing I find interesting about the games and like the reason I looked into them but never got around to it is, I think that, you know, the Force being light side, dark side's like very simplistic, but in a cool way and all. But I do want, you know, for the expanded universe to do more with, okay, do you have to be evil to use the dark side, or can you use it for good, or vice versa? Can you be using only light side force powers to do bad things, kind of stuff like that?
And they did that with some expanded universe stuff.
Yeah, and just it's interesting to see that kind of thing brought up here, where Revan says, I'm not a Sith.
Yeah, that was cool. And he says that you saved your friend using something that you thought was, like, evil or something to that effect. And it reminds me of Kyle Katarn from Jedi Academy saying nothing is inherently good or evil. It's all in how you use it. And I was just like, oh, I love that idea. And that's an idea that I think every Star Wars fan who grew up on EU wants to see actually talked about in the movies, because that's been brought up in so many comics and games and novels. So yeah, it was really cool to see that here.
Gotcha. Yeah. I guess my question then is, would she really be able to use Sith lightning?
I don't know. It reminded me in KOTOR, there's actually Bastila gets captured by the villain of that game, which is Darth Malak. And he's, like, electrocuting her with Force Lightning. And she's like, you can torture me all you want. You're not going to break me. And he's like, oh, I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to show you how powerful you could be. And then she turns to the dark side pretty quick and is able to do Force Lightning. So, maybe, I don't know. We're real inconsistent about how much training it takes to do certain things with the Force. I'm not against it. You know, you look at, like, even in, like, Force Awakens, you know, like, Rey being able to fight with the Force relatively untrained. Like, I'm not against that idea when there's, like, the emotion is there and when like, I'm not convinced she would be able to just whip it out whenever she wants to, but I think in that situation, in that specific scenario, I believe that she would be able to do it.
Okay, so the story makes you buy the lack of one of the
I would say so.
One of the only EU novels I've read is Darth Plagueis, and like he straight up says, "You'll never be able to use Sith lightning till it's used on you."
Yeah.
And so that was kind of a slightly out of place thing. To be fair, that's like one line in a book, and we don't know anything about the history of this character, so you can certainly make an argument. Since this was the time that there was more than one pair of Sith, right?
Yeah, this would have been. This would have been after the Mandalorian Wars, but before the Dark Wars. So in that time there was a Sith army that would have been. They would have had plenty of Sith running around with lightsabers and doing Force lightning.
Okay, cool. That was the only lingering question I had left. We mentioned the soundtrack really briefly, but I did want to get back to that.
Sure.
I'm so used to just fans using the pre-existing Star Wars soundtrack in their fan films that I was really surprised to hear an original score. And not only that, it's good. Yeah,
I was too. It's good. And like for me, I know a lot of Star Wars fans are just like they'll hear a song from the movie, but like there are some of the original score from the KOTOR games that resonate and like remind them of Star Wars just as much as the movie score. And a lot of this, I feel like was kind of evocative of that, and I felt that the score here really did add a lot to it. It was cool because sometimes when you get a fan film and you hear like a piece from the movie, it almost kind of takes you out a little bit, I think, to some degree. So to hear a soundtrack that fits the movie without being so recognizable that you just kind of go like, oh yeah, I know that song from, this scene in the actual Star Wars movies, I think it was kind of cool. It didn't take you out in that way that it sometimes can, I feel like.
Cool. It's interesting because, like, Williams' score, like most of Williams' stuff, it has a lot of strings in it, but it seems that it's more noticeable for the keys, right?
Yeah.
Like you can do the Star Wars theme on the Force theme on piano, and it works a little bit better there. It was interesting to see something with so much bass in it. With so much of like an upright bass and string score in it. And I'm not really a music guy. I have trouble identifying different instruments at times, besides, string, horn, and other. But I really, really liked the way that the strings all work together here. I thought that was really, really cool. What else? I'm trying to think if there's anything else about the score. So you said this felt a little more like the stuff from the Old Republic games. Was it like anything directly mirroring that, or was it just capturing a similar kind of tone?
I would need to listen to it again and listen for that specifically, because I didn't notice anything right offhand when I watched it. Because the thing about the KOTOR score is that there's a lot of it's reminiscent of the original Star Wars scores, absolutely, but there's a lot of more atmospheric pieces, and it of course is very bombastic like the original Star Wars scores because it takes place during a war. As far as specific kind of homages to that material, I think I would need to it's been a while since I've last played KOTOR, so I feel like I would need to listen to those scores and listen to the score again. But it did give me that same sort of feeling, at least. I'm afraid I can't give super specific answers right now. I would need to listen to it one more time.
Gotcha. And, I should bring up, since we're talking about score, we did a Harry Potter fan film a couple months back. And in that, they got an original score, which I thought was, it was a well-done score, but I thought it was a mistake because I felt their visuals suffered, even though they left a comment on the video saying we spent more on the visuals than on the score. I still felt like they misspent their budget by spending any money on a score when you have John Williams and 7 other movies worth of material to pull from. This, I don't feel that the visuals suffered largely. I would have preferred they spent more money on the costuming and maybe do stuff pulling from either the pre-existing movie soundtrack or the game before going out and getting their original scores. But, to be fair, I've not played the games, so I don't know the score that exists there, and I don't know if there's anything that quite fits some of the moods they want it to have.
Well, part of the problem is that with a game score, a lot of the pieces that people remember are almost kind of ambient, right? Because you've got, like, when I play KOTOR, I remember a lot of these pieces that are just playing while I'm kind of going around Dantooine, while I'm going around whatever planet I'm on. They're just playing in the background. And then when you get into combat, there's really only a handful of pieces for when you're in combat. So, like, I feel like that would kind of limit them a little bit because there's not so much setting dramatic story beats like you have in a movie score. It's more just like you're setting kind of the mood of this planet that you're on. It's going to kind of sound like this for a while, and then it's sort of like now we're ramping it up because you're in an action scene. There aren't quite as many, like, music pieces that are tied to specific dramatic story beats as there would be in a normal film score. But I think you could get away with that in something that's much shorter, that's a fan film, that's mostly one big fight scene.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like most of this is just a big fight scene, so the question is, could you find a score piece that does both have the driving action but will work with the emotion? And that I have a little more trouble believing. Whereas, again, with the Harry Potter thing, you have 8 movies to pull from. No, 8 movies to pull from, and John Williams is in there. So, this, I'm willing to give it a little bit more of a pass. But again, I just feel like with the costuming being the biggest problem with this, that either they should have reworked the script a little bit so you didn't need these characters for as long, just like have them take each other out faster, and then maybe even spend less on the costuming and be a little bit more economical in what the characters are wearing, because
the meat of the story is Revan and the Jedi. So, I mean, you're right. You could totally kill off some of those characters quicker because they're there for cool action, but the meat of sort of what the story is trying to accomplish is done with Revan and Kor, I guess her name is.
Yeah, and again, that wouldn't be so much a problem, but it's the fact that by the end they're all dead anyway.
Yeah.
And so their story purpose is served within the first couple minutes.
Yeah.
And then otherwise they just die.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, come on, did anyone really think that one of these guys was going to take out Revan?
No.
Like, they were having enough trouble taking out each other. Did anyone really think that was going to happen?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. That I think is a problem with this. I don't know how big a problem, because at the same time, once I get over the fact that the costuming is just a little iffy, it's like B+ cosplay, in my opinion. I don't want to make the impression that it's bad. It's just like, it's just okay.
I think part of the problem is that it's kind of inconsistent. So I think the red Mandalorian who has like the cape, I think he looks pretty consistently solid throughout. And I think Revan, like I said earlier, he looks straight off the page / game. And I think Mission looks pretty solid too, because I mean Mission generally just wears like whatever. But then you compare the red Mandalorian to the blue Mandalorian and the kind of silver female Mandalorian, and I don't think their costumes hold up as well as his does, and I don't think any of their costumes hold up as well as Revan's does. So part of the problem is I think it's almost kind of inconsistent. So you're jumping from a costume that looks really solid and really well done to a costume that you're suddenly just like, oh, that doesn't look super great.
Yeah, it's just that contradictory element which does hold this back a little bit.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about with this?
I'm a little confused about when this actually takes place in the timeline, because they say that it takes place in between the movie and the Revan book, but that doesn't totally make sense because Revan doesn't get his Mandalorian mask back until the book, and that's the mask he's wearing in this fight, and he's talking like a Revan who has all of his memories back, because that's what happens in the book, is he gets his mask and then all of his memories come back. Like, he had snippets in the game. When he puts the mask back on, he gets all of his memories. and he's kind of talking like that's happened, and he's wearing the mask, so I feel like that's happened, but that doesn't happen until the book, and they said that this takes place in between the game and the book, so I'm a little confused by that. I'm also a little confused as to why they're taking her to Clan Ordo, because Canderous and Mission know each other, because they worked together with Revan, so I'm a little confused as to why they would be taking her to him, unless they're going off of the dark side ending of KOTOR 1, which kind of confuses everything, because KOTOR 1 has two different endings that very much change the context of this story. So, I mean, that's the only thing I would kind of complain about, and it's not really a complaint, because it's not something that they can help, because they're building off a material that's a choose-your-own-adventure story to a degree. So there's only so much leeway you can have, because I think the intent is that it's supposed to take place after the dark side ending of KOTOR, and that makes a little bit more sense, because in that, Canderous, like, stayed loyal to Revan, but Mission, like, ran away. So that makes a bit more sense. That's really it. I don't think that's too much of a slight against the project. It's just weird, like, something that you can't help when you're basing your story off of an RPG.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, you ready to go ahead and go on to ratings then?
Yep.
Alright, I'm going to go first. I will give this 3.5 out of 5 paintball guardians.
I'm also gonna give it 3.5. I'm gonna give it 3.5 secondary purple lightsabers that you should have drawn at the beginning of the fight out of 5.
Okay, cool. What are we gonna talk about next time? I feel like talking about Doctor Who. Gotta find a good Doctor Who.
I've seen all of 9, all of 10, and most of 11, and that's about it. I really like 9. People always hate on 9, but 9 was my favorite.
9's good. I'm more of a 10 man myself, though.
Yeah, I really liked 9 a lot. I thought he had a really cool... I liked his story. I liked his character arc. I liked the decisions he made near the end of it. I just thought it was interesting. So, but a lot of my friends who are really Doctor Who don't like 9.
Weird.
Yeah.
Well, alright, I'm gonna do... Rasko's gonna hate me, but I'm gonna do a longer one that's the beginning of a fan series, and it's called Doctor Who Fan Film Series 1, Episode 1, Dawn of the Doctor, by DW 2012.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, should be a good time. A nice little romp through fan film world. Ooh, wow, they're up to like 4 seasons. That's cool. I'm excited. All right. Everyone, thank you very much for watching. Please join us next time. And until then, I'm the Philosopher.
I'm the Sonic Erotica Lover.
And we are your geeky gentlemen. And we will be discussing things.